Hello and welcome to This Week in Campbell Football, powered by our friends at Fred Anderson Toyota. I'm your host, Chris Sameyer, alongside the head coach of Campbell Football, Mike Minter. And coach, the homecoming game against Mercer, another record-setting day for your offense, the most passing yards put up ever by a Campbell team at 355, 544 total yards, and you came up just 7 points short.
I tell you what, the offense is really doing a great job this year. I think a couple games that we really didn't get the production, but that's normal in a year for an offense. We got to get better on the defensive side of the football. I think we're averaging 30-some points a game, and we got to be able to win with that. And so I do know it's a little bit it's a little bit more difficult for these defensive guys to try to understand what's going on the defensive side of the ball. But I expect in these next 4 weeks for us to play a whole lot better defense so we can win some football games around here. And that's really what it's all about.
What's been working so well for your offense? How have they been able to put up the numbers that they have?
Well, you know what? We are multi-facet type offense. We give you a lot of different formations. That's very difficult for a defense to prepare for. You can't prepare for all the things that we give you, and something you know you're not going to give the time to it, and they didn't give time to the read game the read option game that we have, and we was able to get that. I think Coach Mariani and the offensive staff has really just been putting together great game plans to take advantage of their defense and take advantage of our offensive talent. And man, we're excited now. We got Austin Fleming, who he was a quarterback. We converted to a tight end, and we saw him doing a lot of great things in practice against our defense. And so I said, hey, let's put him in the game. And he got in the game, caught a touchdown pass. So I think that young man is going to be something that brings another dynamic to our offense as a passing, catching tight end. That's going to be good.
Austin Fleming is number 15. You'll see him in these jam-packed highlights of this weekend's game against Mercer, brought to you by our friend Bill Priestley.
Homecoming at Campbell as the Fighting Camels took on Mercer, and this one got off to a very fast start. First play from scrimmage, John Russ hits Jordan Marshall for a 73-yard touchdown, and Mercer was quickly on the board 7-0. After a Mercer field goal that made it 10-0, Austin Fleming scores Campbell's first touchdown on the day on a 15-yard reception from Brian Hudson. Russ would continue the scoring on this 15-yard run, and Mercer would open up a 17-7 lead. After another Mercer score that made it 24-7, Jared Ozimek struck this 36-yard field goal true, and Campbell climbed to within 2 scores, though Mercer would take a 31-10 lead to the locker room. After a Mercer touchdown that opened up the second half to make it a 4-touchdown game, Campbell started to fight back. Brian Hudson scored on this 3-yard run, and it was 38-17. On Mercer's next drive, this 45-yard field goal attempt is blocked. CU then caps off a 67-yard drive with this touchdown pass from Brian Hudson to Daniel Taylor as he wrestles it away from a defender, and it was a 38-24 game. Mercer and CU would trade possessions before Mercer would get it back, and the Fighting Camels would bow up and stop Mercer on 4th down to get the ball back. Facing 4th and 5 on their own, Hudson goes to the end zone to find Jordan Hildreth, and with 2 minutes to go in the game, it was 38-31 Mercer. The onside kick, however, would be recovered by Campbell, but by Coach Mike Minter on the sidelines. Mercer would get 1 first down and run out the clock as the Bears win 38-31. Campbell would again eclipse the 500-yard mark in total offense as Brian Hudson would throw for 308 yards, completing 33 of 46 attempts. He also ran for a team-high 76 yards. 7 different receivers would tally at least 30 yards receiving. Campbell put up almost 200 yards on the ground, with Kurt Odom and Deshaun Jones getting credit for more than half of that total. Campbell is on the road next week to take on another first-year program in Stetson University in DeLand, Florida. After a wild second half, Coach Mike Minter said this was all part of the building process.
The next step is play like that when it's 0-0, okay? Don't play like that when your back is against the wall, right? So, but again, you think about us early in the season. When we got behind and couldn't come back, right? So the next step is Now when you get behind, you fight and come back. So we've done that for 3 weeks. I think we got that now. So now the next step is come out like that when it's 0-0, because that's what winning teams do.
It's now time for our Ask Coach Mike segment, where we ask Coach Mike Minter your questions that you post on Facebook or put on Twitter with the hashtag AskCoachMike. Coach, this one comes from Mindy out of Cary, North Carolina. She says, when you were playing for the NFL Carolina Panthers, who were your favorite teammates, and who were some guys that you really got along with great off the field as well?
Well, I mean, my main guy was Mike Rucker. We went to college together in Nebraska, and so we knew each other before the NFL, and so we he lived down the street from where I lived, and our families grew up together, and wives both from Nebraska. So everything was just right with that. Muhsin Muhammad was another one. He's a guy that I grew up with in the league. He came in '96, I came in '97, and so we was young guys and grew up through the years of going to the Super Bowl together. And so, Muhsin was another guy that was there with the Panthers. That probably and then John Casey. John Casey was a spiritual leader of the football team, and really learned a lot from him. And you wouldn't imagine a defensive back hanging out with a kicker, but it did, and it worked out. But most of the time we spent was at Bible studies and things like that. And so those three guys is probably the three guys that I hung out with the most.
And not only were they great off the field, what great teams on the field. Of course, the 2 NFC Championship games and the Super Bowl appearance. When you were in the NFL, Coach, you took some long road trips, and unfortunately you're going to take a long road trip this weekend. It's a bus ride all the way down to Florida, in a place that's tough to get to in Florida. That's why you're not flying there. DeLand, Florida is somewhere in the middle of Orlando and Daytona. You take on first-year program Stetson. First off, what do you know about the Hatters?
Well, you know what? They are a young football team, and what you see is they're going to try to be physical. That they're going to try to run the football. They got 2 great running quarterbacks, which makes me nervous, all right, because we couldn't tackle the guy from last week, okay? So we got to be able to contain their quarterback, not let him scramble. They do some quarterback draws. They run the option game with him, true triple option with him. So we got to get the ball out of his hands, and then they got a couple of tall receivers that can cause you some problems as far as the offense is concerned. Their defense, they just try to fly around and get to the football is really what they try to do, and we got to take advantage of their aggressiveness and make them pay with misdirection things, and so I'm looking for us to. I think I thought it was going to be last week where everything came together, but it's going to be one of these weeks when it all come together, and we're going to consistently play that way, because at that point we have learned how to win, and that's where we at, and we getting real close to that of breaking through, so people can see the whole thing come together for 4 quarters, not just 2 quarters.
I know you probably can't make it to DeLand, Florida with us, but no worries. We'll be on the air 107.3 FM. You can also listen to us on GoCamels.com. And, of course, we will have all the highlights for you and hopefully some winning reaction next week here on This Week in Campbell Football. That'll do it for us. For head coach Mike Minter, I'm Chris Hamar saying so long. We'll talk to you next week on This Week in Campbell Football.